So, man, the mission is to reach women and to say that you're not alone and that we can figure this out and we're going to help you and hold you, like carry you along the way. We're here for that. And we really truly know that we can get you to your family.
Walk into Aphrodite Fertility Acupuncture, and you'll be greeted by vibrant plants, a warm waiting room, and a soft piano track playing over the speakers. If you're a client, you might have found your way to the clinic after seeing founders Emily Marson and Ghoncheh Ayazi on Instagram, sharing fertility insights. Regardless of your journey to Aphrodite, you're welcomed into a safe space, carefully built for some of life's most vulnerable moments. In this episode, you'll hear how Emily and Ghoncheh's trust for each other as business partners overflows to their practice and how they make the guest experience a healing one. Welcome to Radio Front Desk, a show that surfaces what real people and real clinics are doing to open, run, and grow successful health and wellness businesses. I'm your host, Denzel Ford, editor-in-chief of Front Desk Magazine by Jay Knapp. Here, we have powerful conversations with health and wellness professionals on the business side of clinic life. We hear their stories and discover what works and how to do it. And we also talk about what doesn't work. If you want to check out more stories like this, head to frontdesk.jane.app. Special note, this episode discusses sensitive topics related to women's health and experience of loss, which may be triggering for some listeners. Join me for this episode on Radio Front Desk on building and marketing a practice to millennials in their fertility journey. So let's step inside your clinic a little bit. So what is Aphrodite like when you step inside? I'm really curious about, just to give listeners a sense of the space and the feel and the vibe. I mean, you can see it a little bit from the photo that I've seen on the magazine cover, but I'd love to hear you both talk about it a little bit. What was your intent behind the space? How did you design it and come to alignment on what it would be? And then, bring us there. Bring us there a little bit.
Yeah, I'll start with like the intention, and then Ghoncheh can maybe speak on like how it feels for her too. But from the beginning, I knew my practice was not going to be sterile, was going to be like the opposite of Western medicine. So oftentimes I think practitioners coming out of school feel maybe like they have to prove their authority and they move towards like a Western medicine model to do. And so oftentimes clinics feel like they have to wear their lab coats. And then they have to, the treatment rooms are based similarly on like what you would find at an MD's office.
Yeah.
And I think that actually does a disservice, because what acupuncture and Eastern medicine can really do is envelop like all of the ways to heal, including how the space feels. And so because we focus on women's health, the space is really feminine. And I'm sure you can see that like from the cover. And we've recently moved, and so it's even more feminine. We just like went all in on femininity and like sort of an ethereal energy that when you walk in, your nervous system comes down. There are no bright lights. There are windows were really important. Getting nature to hit your skin, when especially these women who come to see us who are particularly type A, like big producers in their careers, probably sitting at an office all day and just sitting in masculine energy world, like a go and produce world. And so I wanted the space to be full of mother nature. So we have a lot of plants, pinks and neutrals, really soothing to that like rest and digest side of your nervous system. So their body has like a physical response when they come here. The other thing we do that's maybe different than other clinics is that we play piano music, and we play the same 12 tracks like in a loop. So Ghoncheh and I have heard these tracks like maybe 10,000 times. But it's super intentional, because what happens is the patient, as they come back, they hear the piano songs, they start to recognize them, and then they start to know what song comes next. and then anticipate that. And then they can sort of let go of the idea of like the anticipatory nature of like a new song coming into the room. And it sort of like puts them into a trance. I actually had our patient recently. We took her through fertility and pregnancy, and she was like late in pregnancy. She went to Europe, and they were sitting at like some French cafe, and this one of the songs, piano songs, came on, and she was like, "I immediately transported into your clinic." And that's the idea: is that okay? So you feel a sense of nervous system downregulation when you step in here, and then to have these like cues that will also trigger that like piece.
Yeah.
It's very everything we do aesthetically is very intentional. And then
Yeah. So, like Emily is saying, feminine, earthy, grounded, and there's also like the energy that Emily and I carry as practitioners that we bring into the space and our rapport, our relationship with our patients, which is just like we're friends, like we're friendly, we talk, we laugh, we like make jokes, but we can also cry with them and have them lean a shoulder on us. We really pride ourselves on being like at the same level with them. We don't view ourselves as being like above them or this kind of traditional like doctor patient relationship or power struggle. Like we're in it with you, and patients really love that. And especially as we've grown into this new space where we are now, we have more offerings. We have like our movement studio, Pilates and yoga classes, which we'll talk more about. But we also have massage and like sound healing and different types of offerings. So it's become really like a community center for women in San Diego. And when women come in, they're like, there's like an energy to us, a bubbliness to it, where some people are chatting over here and we're hugging over here and crying over there. And like, there's a real like energy of connection, and it's so healing. And like, without a doubt, every woman that walks in here is like, oh my gosh, I need to come back. Like, what is this magical place?
I love how you're describing the details of the intention that you're trying to create this patient care environment. The sound one really stands out to me because I think it's something that definitely some clinics think about. They play music in different ways, but the way that you kind of really drilled down into choosing these 12 songs, it speaks to me because I have an academic background, and there's a lot of research and academic writing on the power of sound and the power of like your environment and different things like the role of objects, but also the role of sound in changing the human experience. So I'm just so appreciative that you shared that with us. So thank you.
Yeah. And people ask, like, do you ever get tired of the music? And I'm like, actually, no, I love it. And it puts me into a trance as a practitioner.
It's very grounding for us. And also I like to joke, like when we're like in our 90s and can't remember our names, if someone should play this music and we will come back, just like The Notebook. We'll come back.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Are they instrumental songs? Are they
piano?
Like Chopin and like Debussy, like your kind of classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So if you could articulate for me the mission of your clinic, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, the mission has always been to pull women out of the darkness of infertility, because their infertility is something that is still really taboo to talk about. And I think that there's a sense that you're not completing like your life's purpose if you can't get yourself pregnant. You know, like if something is going wrong with your fertility journey, like it speaks very deeply to your sense of self for these women. And so they just and their judgment against, you know, their self-worth. It's unbelievably torturous and for them. And so even friendships don't talk to each other really about infertility unless someone like lets it slip, and then everyone's like, oh well, I also, you know, had trouble conceiving. And so there's real loneliness in the journey to motherhood, especially if you are struggling. And so, man, it just hurts my heart to know that so many women are out there alone and just feeling all these really deep emotional moments, and they have to like, give themselves shots in the bathroom because they're going through IVF when they're out to dinner with a group of friends and come back and pretend like nothing, they're not going through anything.
Right.
And so, man, the mission is to reach to reach women and to say that you're not alone and that we can figure this out and we're going to help you and hold you, like carry you along the way. We're here for that. And we really truly know that we can get you to your family that you've wanted. And it can look many different pathways can take shape in that journey, and we can help you with the tools that we have, and we can help you guide you to the people who can also add to that journey to get you there, because we know we can get you there. And so, yeah, it's so women centered, and we're just pulling people out of that loneliness. It's like really the root.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and women are so grateful to find us. In their new appointment, they're like, I am so glad I found you all, and this is exactly what I've been needing. And very quickly, this is a word I like to use a lot when Emily and I talk about, like, they magnetize to us. Like, they're like, you have what I'm looking for. I am with you, and I'm gonna follow you. Whether they're just they're picking up what we're putting down, and the deep trust is built. It's really gratifying.
Yeah, we have the best work because we truly know that we can help these women.
I love that there's so much heart behind what you're doing, and I can feel it from both of you. So it's just so wonderful to hear you talk about it. I wonder if we can translate all of that like inspiration and humanity and heart into the business side of it. And how do you kind of make that translation in your day-to-day lives in 800 different ways? And the first thing I wanted to talk about was the different services that you offer. You've both kind of alluded to that, and you've alluded to the fact that you have tools, and I'm imagining that the other services that you offer inside Aphrodite are also different tools. So how did you come to that decision to bring other types of care into the clinic? And what would you say, really is working in that sense?
Yeah, I think just the idea of Chinese medicine is that the body is all connected. And so we know that we have acupuncture and herbs to help get you to your healthy pregnancy, but we also have the perspective and the humility to know that sometimes that's not all the body needs. And really, the idea of bringing in other practitioners is a lot of times what's happening is that the nervous system is really at the root of not feeling good. Like, of course, right? And so not feeling good is a part of healing in all aspects of what's maybe coming up for you, whether it's fertility or whatever. And so brought in different practitioners to help women feel better in general. And that looks like deep touch with massage that works on like the deep proprioceptive levels. And that looks like cellular alignment with sound. And that looks like certain exercises like Pilates and yoga that's really grounded and rooted in femininity. So that if we can get the nervous system to come out of fight or flight, then a lot of pathways to healing open up.
What I'm really hearing in that is that you made those decisions from a place of what your patients need, which is super interesting to me, because when I've asked other clinic owners, I would say their answer sometimes can be that there's a business reason behind it. And that is the first thing that they go to. But you're telling me you're listening to what your patients need. And I mean, I don't want to be saying that they're not also listening to what their patients need. It's just that you're definitely very deep inside your patient experience from what I'm hearing you talk about.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. And it would not feel authentic to me and us as like the business drivers to bring something in that was for, let's say, monetary benefit. These big projects, we have this movement studio, and it's going to take a year to be profitable from it. But that's like fine. But the goal, it's going to work because we know our patients need it. We know women need it, and we know that we just have to get in front of the women who do need it. But like there's the monetary side of it is like that's fine. We know it's going to work. It just takes time to work, and we can be at a loss for a while because we know that ultimately it is authentic to healing and people are attracted to healing.
Yeah, that's very powerful. So talk to me about how you two work together. What is the kind of like division of labor a little bit, and how does that work in a positive way? You guys both seem like you're really into this and into the partnership that you have. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. Dual entrepreneurship is the buzzword I'm going to use.
Yeah, I love the way that sounds. Well, let me just say that the amount of growth that we've had in the last year as Aphrodite is largely attributed to the fact that Emily and I started to share a schedule.
Yeah.
We overlap more than we don't. So we're constantly passing ideas back and forth to each other and talking about new projects and new ideas and talking about patient cases. So it's like very kind of patient centered and also business centered. And that's been huge. So I'd say Emily's like the main idea generator, grand visionary, literally visionary. Let me just say that. And I come in with just like the getting shit done kind of attitude, and tending to like a lot of the details to help get these projects and ideas off of the ground and figuring out what we need to make it happen. So we both have different skills and strengths, and we're so lucky in that they really complement each other.
They do. And I would say, yeah, like we're just, because we're bringing people on, and as we grow, we need to have real structure around sort of duties. And so we were just literally before this drawing out the map. And so it's like the vision and the aesthetic lands with me, although Ghoncheh is absolutely a contributor to that. But the overall like movement of the business and where we see it going, I'm always thinking about. And then I'll bounce that off Ghoncheh, and she will execute. Like the best person to have for someone who, for my brain, that's more like creative, but not necessarily as organized and diligent. And I think that probably comes like that innate nature from your parents.
Yeah,
it's just
totally.
like, here's what I need to do. We're going to get it done. This is how we're going to do it. And so it's such a great like yin and yang complementary partnership. And I feel really lucky.
Yeah, likewise.
We've been trying to hire a third acupuncturist for a while, and we haven't found. We actually just recently did this week. But for a long time, we hadn't found anyone with that really mission-driven idea of how they want to contribute to Aphrodite, and like follow a mission, sort of like a global sense of the ultimate goal versus like just a practitioner who comes in, does their job, and comes out.
Right.
With Ghoncheh, it's been amazing to both have eyes on like the bigger picture and drive movement towards that.
Very, very wonderful. So what has your journey been from like just getting started to expansion, and take me through how you made decisions about like when to hire somebody. Was Ghoncheh your first hire, or did you have people already? And then how are you making that decision to bring people in? I guess I'm asking from a like really practical place of like identifying the business need and then bringing them in. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I think that Just the first thing was patient load. It wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
I had just become
Yeah.
a new mom, and I just couldn't be here all the time. And then also want, again, sort of like from the patient perspective, just wanting to serve them the quality. I didn't want to lose quality as I gained patient load, right? I wanted to continue real quality. And so Ghoncheh wasn't my first hire, but she was the first right hire. Um, so like it was, I think hiring has been the biggest struggle for me, because I have found that, like, in the beginning, I was just so excited about, like, again, helping women and bringing someone on to help me do that, that I didn't do my due diligence and sort of interviewing, deeply interviewing. I just sort of like was excited to have someone else, and so I did more of the talking in the interview. And really, I need to um, ask more questions to find out answers about, like, their particular motivation, how they feel about, like, joining a team, and um, um, entrepreneurship, because we were talking about this yesterday. We sort of in this moment have like a startup vibe where you're not just acupuncture. It's like there's so many projects that we have. The next person that comes in, yes, has to treat patients, but also has to be really willing and excited about driving the business forward. And that's probably the rarest thing, because those people tend to open their own business. If you have like an entrepreneurial mind, you tend to open your own clinic. And so it's really rare to find someone who genuinely wants to join a team, and that's why they're looking to come on board.
Right.
Not just like they need a paycheck and they want, just to put in needles and walk away. And so we recently found someone who brought sort of entrepreneurship to the interview as like the main reason why she wanted to join us, as like a team member of something that she can see is growing, a business growing, versus like, I just want to come in and needle patients and walk away. It was hard to find, and I found it in Ghoncheh, and then we've been looking for probably over a year now.
Yeah.
What an interesting concept that you're looking for people with a mindset of entrepreneurship, but to come and join what you've already created. I don't think I've heard that yet. That's a very unique way of putting it. And I don't know that anyone has said that to me either, that it's hard to find people because they're probably starting their own businesses. So interesting.
We've learned to really take our time in this process and finding our next hire, because it would be so easy to, you don't have, the bar is very low if you're not looking for the entrepreneurial spirit on having the qualifications. But Emily and I made a pact that like we're not going to settle, and we're really just going to take our time to find like that next unicorn, because otherwise it's just so expensive. You're just financially in paying someone that doesn't have longevity in the business. Your reputation, that's the biggest thing that I feel above all else, is if you don't make the right choice, your reputation is at stake. And that's been, I'd say, like kind of like the scariest thing, is like the potential of relinquishing control or of our reputation, our image. So it's waiting.
Do you mean the reputation because of how this person is interacting with your patients, or do you mean your reputation if you have to let them go and then they go out into the world?
Oh, like how an employee is interacting with our patients who have been following us for a long time, and has already kind of built in trust, and making sure that we don't break that trust at any cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What have you learned about interviewing prospective people? It's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I've developed a very strict thing that I do. I wonder if you have anything like that, a strategy, certain questions that you ask, what you're looking for, non-negotiables, that kind of thing.
Totally. I would love to hear what your I'm always learning about interviewing.
Let me just real quick. One thing is the first few minutes. A lot of our interviews are virtual. The first few minutes, it's just like, hey, how you going? How's it going? How's your day? What are you up to? How's your week gonna look? And I'm very much grading that, and I'm very much listening for how they speak, what's their tone, how do they talk about their current environment. Usually, they're currently working, and they will do one of two things. They will talk very positively about their week and their day and their manager, or they will talk very negatively. And it's basically one of the two. It's like pass fail in those first 3 minutes. And then I also later ask them a lot more technical, hard questions, looking for something similar, because we are also in a startup environment. And when you get someone into that environment, there are hard moments. There's difficult situations to work through, friction-filled moments where things don't go the way you thought they would, and everyone has a lot of heart invested into the things that we do. And so when it fails, there's a very personal experience that people are having. So I want to know, how have they experienced that in their past? And there's only so much you can do in an interview, but what you can do is really push into what was the experience? How did you feel? How did you handle it? And again, people will do one of two things. They'll either be honest or not. And you can kind of tell if they're saying the phrases that are supposed to be said, or if they're giving you an honest answer. And then you can also kind of gauge if they have like a maturity to be like, yeah, this was really hard. But I also recognize that I have work to do to show up as lovely as I can. So it's something like that. Those are my two biggest things. And then there's like 800 other things. But what about you?
Yeah, those are so great, and we're gonna tuck those into our pocket too. But what we've learned to do is Ghoncheh will sort of screen. So she'll do like the first interview and just get a sense of how they speak. Actually, even before that, we ask for a cover letter, and if they don't send one, I mean, obviously that's a big
I'm
red
so
flag.
into that. Yeah. And so many people who hire, they're like, yeah, they didn't send a cover letter. I'm like, no. Yeah.
Yes, and how they write in their cover letter matters.
Yeah.
And now in this day and age, like flagging for Chat GPT, because again, like our voice is like is authentic, our branding is authentic, and so you can sort of read Chat GPT, although it's a good tool, but like let's hear some authenticity. And then Ghoncheh will screen. And so do you want to talk about like your screening process?
Yeah, so I've been doing initial interviews with applicants on Zoom to just do that basic energetically. How do they
present?
Yeah, how do they present?
Yeah.
It's instant.
We talk about sorry to interrupt you.
No, yeah.
But we talk about whether or not they raise their eyebrows when they speak. Yeah. Like if there's in Chinese medicine, there's a thing called Shen, which is like the energy that comes out of your mind. And you can tell when people have a really flat affect, it's like our patients need the coach and the positivity. And if they're not like raising their eyebrows.
That like spark.
That is hilarious. I love it. I'm going to take that one and put it in my pocket.
Like after an interview, I'll go and debrief with them. I'm like, there was no Shen.
Yeah.
Like no Shen, so no hire. Yeah. So initial interview over Zoom, seeing how they like speak, their energy. Are they asking questions? I think that's one of the most important things is how engaged are they? They need to be engaged every step of the way, from the interview through the second interview, which we do in person, and through the training. We really are looking for like a coachability, teachability, and a humility in the person that we bring on. Enough humility to know when they don't know something and to feel safe enough to ask questions, which of course has a lot to do with the environment we're creating as managers. And you had mentioned that yourself too, but we really want that engagement. So if the first interview goes well, they kind of like check the boxes. At a minimum, I'll ask about what they're doing currently, why it's not working, where they see themselves in like 5 to 10 years. And that really helps us get a vision of, are they looking to join a practice and then start their own business in like a couple years? or they had their own business and they're just really ready to join a team. And then if they meet those like basic bars, we'll invite them into the studio for an in-person second interview with both myself and Emily, and we'll see kind of how they interact in person and how they present.
Yeah, and I would say like one of the big things that makes people stand out is when they have they come across with like, I'm really curious and interested in continuing to learn. And I have, I'm thinking of this recent candidate that we're about to hire. She's like, I have all these ideas about the business. I'd be happy to share. I studied your website. She's showing that she really took initiative to learn the business and the mission. But then sort of came back and was like, and I'm really ready to learn, and I know that I can learn from mentorship, like sort of I have all of this energy to bring, but I'm still ready to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
So checking the ego, like, because if you bring people with egos into your business, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And another thing that's really important to me is being able to take feedback. And that's definitely really related to the ego, because ultimately, when you're working for a business or when you're hiring for people to work for a business, you, you need to have people who are able to work for the business. When you have that ego and you think you're right, or you think you have the best ideas, you're no longer working for the business. You're kind of like working for yourself, and maybe you should have your own business or something like that. But it's so important, and it's easy to underestimate the power of that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we've really tried to make abundantly clear in the offer, the contract that we present to somebody for bringing them on, is that everything you're doing is under like the brand, the mission, the vision of Aphrodite. Like, you're not your own business, kind of like sequestered.
Yeah, totally.
There has to be like a cohesiveness in how we present, how we speak to patients, how we coach patients through their fertility journey. It's all part of like one grander vision, and I think that's important.
And to speak to that, like the decision to move, when I first brought on employees, it's very common in acupuncture, and I'm not sure in I think in other clinics, to either rent rooms to other businesses, like other, single person businesses, or to commission model, where like this, you have this many patients, and so you get a certain commission for how many patients you're holding. And that just creates fractures in the mission-centered business, because the room rentals feel like they need to be working on their business and not necessarily match the branding and the experience that our patients are coming here for.
Interesting.
And the commission model creates a lot of resentment and competitiveness around like, whose patient is this versus only employees. So I start them off with a salary. And so everyone can interchange the patients can see all the practitioners. Ghoncheh's salary doesn't change when someone cancels, which can feel like, if it was a commission model, that can feel like, oh no, they canceled, I'm going to reach out to them 100 times. And that can feel desperate or like, thirsty.
Yeah, totally.
And so we've tried to create like a really sort of safety in the salaried employee model. And so everyone, I'm working here, I'm under the brand, I'm representing the brand, and there's not sort of like ulterior motive to anything that I do here. Does that make sense?
Can we drill into that a little bit? I'm curious about, I'm not sure exactly what you're comfortable sharing, but if there is something you're comfortable sharing about how you do that operationally, but also, was there any pushback that you received when you were looking at making that decision? I've talked to a few other people, and one of the things I've heard is that they were kind of advised against the salary model. But when I hear you talk about it, you're like, well, it creates this environment in the clinic that isn't like conducive with our brand. So I don't know what else you'd be willing to share about that.
Yeah. So I would always like, the goal is to have employees who want to work here. Also, I come from corporate. I was in, like, I hated the environment of like not wanting to be where I worked. And so really also in the back of our minds as we grow is like, how do we create an environment where people, the employees want to come here. They feel secure in the salary that they're receiving, and they feel like they can go take care of their families. And so what's hard as a business is that, especially a service-based business where the income is based on like appointments,
right? Exactly.
Is taking on the risk of giving a salary that the business isn't generating yet.
Yeah.
So like the amount they come in, they have 0 patients, but I'm giving them, a certain salary.
Yep.
So taking a loss at first until they reach, the patient per patient amount that would be worth their salary.
Yeah.
I'm taking a loss, but creating the stability for the employee is just infinitely returned in how they present themselves here, like their energetics.
Yeah.
Like, and that creates a better environment for the patient. And then that's why we have this real team mentality here, and women can feel that there's safety in this place because the employees like to be here and feel safe being here and not like they're undervalued. It is hard.
It's an interesting piece too, because when you make the people who work there feel safe, they're going to work to create, just even by default, the environment that you're trying to create for your patients that you discussed earlier. Yeah. So interesting how those two things link together.
Exactly. I mean, I would say the tough part is the salary at the beginning is low for San Diego. San Diego is expensive. Yeah. But I did try to make a model where this is sort of unique, I think, to us, where I give you a salary so you know what you're taking home every month, and so you can really budget around it. And then every quarter for the first year, we'll have a review. And if you've held a certain amount of patients in that 13 weeks before the review, then you're bumped up by 10,000. So every quarter in the first year, you can go up by 10,000 to get you to the livable salary in San Diego.
Right.
And then once we get you there, then you become, a chief operations officer or a chief officer, especially in this founding. And then your salary is dependent as like a manager and how the business is doing itself. But it's a way for me to take on some risk, but not like a huge risk. There's not a huge lag time until they're making their services are equal to their salary. And then I can sort of give them more as they generate more. Yeah. But there's safety number they know they're taking home. So with commission, they're like, I don't know, this month we didn't have as many patients, so I don't know, there's it's not confusing. It's like, it's very clear. And then there's very quick markers to getting to a livable salary in San Diego as they bring in money that supports the business.
Yeah, I love how it's kind of like you're in this together too when I'm hearing you talk about it. Like you have a performance, I don't know if performance is the right word, but a contribution, an impact, expectation, and you will be rewarded for that. And there's this like back and forth. It seems very doable when I hear you talk about it.
And as I'd say the first salaried employee of Aphrodite, it really creates a purity of interactions with your patients that going back to the thirstiness that Emily was talking about. This week, for example, I had a couple patients that were wanting to pause treatment because of life factors, and they're like, I'll be back. But they were really looking for permission to pause. They're like, what do they have some other big things going on, and they're like, I don't know. And so having a salary, having that sense of you don't need to worry about one person dropping off the schedule who will then come back in a few months, really gives the practitioner permission, let's say confidence in being hey, it's okay. I'll see you in a few months. It's okay if you take a break while you deal with some more urgent things. And they are so relieved. And it feels really good from the practitioner side to say so with such a clear mind and clear heart. That's really in the best interest of the patient. So there's really the top business level choices of how we structure employment has such a ripple out effect in how we relate to patients and the trust that we build long term.
Yeah. So how do you think about filling those appointments I'm assuming there's a sense of like getting people to come back from the patient care you're giving, but how do you get new people in the door? And what I'm trying to get at is, let's talk about marketing a little bit.
Well, what we spoke to in the article, and I truly deeply believe, is that search engine optimization is where you should put your money. Because what is everyone doing? They're Googling fertility acupuncture. They're Googling what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And you don't have the keywords that will signal to Google that you are an authority in this space that people are trying to search for, then you won't be presented in front of them. So I think like oftentimes as a new student or new practitioner coming out of school, you're like, okay, I set up a website, I spent all this money on like a website, and then you're like, publish, and you're like, okay, people are going to find me, and they're not going to find you unless you optimize your search engine. And I've done, I learned that over the course of, 7 years of doing other things. Like,
what else did you do?
Yeah. So like Yelp ads, Google ads, Instagram ads, like networking, business networking, marketing.
Interesting.
And honest, and then finally I hired this team, Duo Collective, and they were actually someone that my website provider recommended, and they were like the difference in where we saw huge new numbers of new patients come through. Because the reality is that's how people look for things now, is like through how they are searching on Google. The other thing is our reputation. So like, of course, any business is going to do well if we have very tangible results.
Yeah.
Like people come to us to get pregnant and then they get pregnant and have a baby. Okay. So like, it's not like, I'm coming to acupuncture because I want to regulate my anxiety. Like, do I feel better? It's like, I want to have a baby and I had a baby, like this is very tangible result. So the referral based business is really awesome. And then women come back to like their second kids and like,
right.
So in itself is like the rooted, very slow level marketing, but the fastest marketing sort of like energy and best marketing money spent was on search engine optimization.
One of the questions I had was because you're talking about people who are in a very particular moment of their life, is there something that you're doing to be sensitive to that when you're picking keywords or making your website or thinking about any other kind of messaging that you provide people in any other place, like in your physical clinic or anything? And I'm asking too because I was thinking like, how do you get people to come back? You have a baby and then you had the baby. And I guess maybe you have another baby, but then you've had the second baby and people have 1, 2, sometimes 3. You know what I mean? Like, how are you approaching that where there is like an endpoint to your client base?
I think I just say that I don't need them to come back. And there's really, and again, that sort of lets go of the energetics. Like you have to be coming to acupuncture the rest of your life. Like I as a patient who have gone to like other service providers, like chiropractors particularly stand out for me, where they're like, there's this treatment plan, and then you'll come once a month, like forever. And to me, as like a patient, I'm like, that I can't get behind that. Like I just want to get better and feel better. And then when that's the case, then like let me choose if I come back for maintenance.
Yeah.
And so basically we have a life cycle to our patients. And because there's no like, again, sort of desperate need, like the business isn't gonna crash because I can't hold patients forever. Then then the patients come back anyways. Then and they're like, oh, I remember how I felt when I was there, and now I'm having sleep problems. I'll come back. But I would say the majority are life cycle, like cycle patients, and then but they then tell their friends, and so they generate new business. And the other thing is like the reason that we are able to do well is because, having a baby is something patients will give anything for. And so we ask that patients come back weekly while they're trying to conceive, and then through their 14th week of pregnancy, and then again when they're going through labor and delivery. That's sort of the life cycle. So trying to conceive weekly, however long that takes, then through the first 14 weeks of pregnancy to stabilize the pregnancy, and then back for labor and delivery. And then if you can come in postpartum, we just tell them we can help you. We get that you maybe can't come in because it's such a crazy time, but know that we are here for you.
Right.
That's the cycle. And the business does well because we also make clear that where we see the most success is if you come back every week. And we're education heavy brand. So in the first appointment, we draw out the feedback loop for hormones. And in that, you can literally see, I'm not trying to convince them, but you can see the hormones change every single week. And so we say, see success is if you come back every week. And women are, yes, we see why. And so we are able to communicate where we fit into their story to get them to the baby that they want. And so it's not a hard sell. We're not selling because we're like, this is how we can get you there.
Yeah.
And we viscerally know that because we've helped so many women now. And so I'm not like trying to convince them. I just say, so can you make that work?
Yeah.
Not like, I'm not trying to sell. This is how it works. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And these patients are also finding so much value in what we offer, aside from the confidence that we're going to help them get to their baby, but just like energetically when they come into this space, and the touch and the system regulation and the music, all the things we were talking about in the beginning, we really work hard to infuse so much value into the treatment that even if it's taking them longer to get pregnant and treatment is prolonged because we're working through some deeper stuff, they still feel really motivated to come back because it just makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I'd love to hear from both of you, what are one or two things that you would kind of advise others to think about or to do when they're getting a business started? And then maybe even one thing that you think didn't work.
The thing that has been the hardest is finding people for me, for what we already sort of touched on. And I think that as you grow, be willing to it's like work ethic. It's like be willing, you gotta be treating because you gotta support the financials of the business, but you also have to put in a 40-hour business mindset in the 3 hours you have. And so it's just sort of startup energy. It's like you really, in this moment, you really have to be willing to work hard, which maybe, I don't know, maybe we're I'm showing my millennial tinge, but we maybe don't see that kind of ethic come out in the generation that's coming out of COVID. And gosh, I feel like the boomers probably definitely said that about us. So I feel kind of cliche saying that, but just having really work ethic, but also knowing that that's not how it's going to be forever, and having practices to really replenish yourself. We were just talking about this today. So personal practice, find an hour, ideally a day or a week, where you are just doing something for joy and not purpose. So even if it's exercise, don't make it exercise for purpose. I got to hit this many calories, dance or something, because if you're not grounded, nothing about your business and your patient experience will be either.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I would add is And it's something that we see going through Chinese medicine school. You learn about so many different pathologies of the body, or really you're filling your clinical hours during school treating like all kinds of things, all age ranges, all pathologies. And so there's very like a general view of how to practice. And I think a lot of people come out of school like they just like want to treat everything, which is lovely.
Totally.
And great and everything. You could treat like kidney disease, and you could treat like infertility, you could treat all these things, but you're really going to go far if you specialize.
Totally. Yes.
You need to specialize, because like so often we're just like acupuncture websites for new practitioners, and it's like help find. Sorry, it sounds close. I don't mean to make fun of anybody, but like they're just kind of like cliche, general. It doesn't actually appeal to anybody. People.
Totally.
And we talk about this all the time. People need to know that you are solving a problem that they have.
Right.
So you need to say like no explicit terms, like you have this, like you're suffering from like recurrent pregnancy loss, like we're going to treat that. Not like let's feel your best self. That doesn't really appeal to anybody. So specializing and not being afraid to, because going through school is very much less this like fear of like isolating people who don't fit your specialty. But I think you need to specialize so you can like reach the people that desperately need your help. So that's the main thing for new practitioners to be aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
And the biggest thing that hasn't worked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could think for myself. Everything's been working since I joined work with them. You have a shared vision, a shared mission, and yeah, it's hard work, but you're in it together, and it's like incredible. But I could share, I guess, what didn't work when I had my own practice before joining Aphrodite is like thinking anything's going to happen overnight or that it's going to happen easily. Really just it takes time, but also like a lot of work and like a grander vision. I think having the larger vision of like where the business and practice are going will help motivate you for like the small minutia work that you have to do. So that's my thing.
All right, I got one. Not a couple things actually. So not clearly communicating, and in all aspects of the business. So like the marketing side, if you're not like sort of what Ghoncheh just said, if you are not clear about how you can help this person and that you are going to be the expert to help them, they won't trust you. Like, why would they trust you? So a lot of times I have like the content on my site has been changed over and over and over again over the course of many years. Literally every week I'm changing the words on my website to sharpen up the like what problem are we solving? So for example, we have this movement studio and we have a separate website for it. And so I've been sort of dabbling in that a little bit. And the hero piece of it said something like Pilates for women who are trying to conceive. And like that is not really problem centered. So like if you change it more to something like don't lose strength during pregnancy. Like the problem is women feel like they lose their strength. And like the way that we're going to solve it is with this movement studio.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so I think a big lesson, I mean, marketing has been the biggest lesson, not having that, right? Like, how do you reach the people who need you? Like, that's any business's biggest problem. And so I think things that haven't worked have been not being sharp on directing every piece of content towards what problem that we're solving.
So such a helpful tip. It's so easy to think, me and my team all day, we think about words. It's so easy to think that you're being so clear. And then you get the response back and you're like, oh, that wasn't clear at all. And we have I mean, we have anywhere from 15 to 22 people working on these words at any one time. So, and it's hard. It's really hard to actually be clear. I love how you call out that you have been changing it all the time as you go. That's such a helpful thing. So thank you so much for saying that. So what's next for Aphrodite?
Wow. Gosh. Really? Okay. The most acute thing in Chinese medicine, we think a lot about like acute and chronic, is getting our movement studio to be bumping. There's Emily and I talk about this all the time. There's really like a shifting tide in how women view fitness, and what's actually hormonally supportive. So it's really getting us in front of these women to make clear that like we've got the secret sauce with feeling good in your body and soothing your nervous system at the same time, making that profitable.
Right.
That's the kind of like cute thing. Gosh, bringing on another practitioner and having their schedule be completely full. Mine and Emily's schedule is bursting at the seams as far as patient load, so having them be really full, and then, really sharpening our work as like a community center for women, and having like lots of rich soothing like offerings in our studio to have women feel like they're not alone, whether or not they're trying to conceive. Do you want to add on that?
And I think just again, like going back to the mission is like reach as many women in this darkness. So that means perhaps long-term goals are to have some sort of online
Yes.
developed course or service where we can reach people outside of just the local touch, or perhaps bringing Aphrodite to different states. I think that we have something that we're doing that's unique and that's needed outside of San Diego itself. And just like, how can we like embrace all those women who are suffering? Like,
I love it.
let's go. Let's go help women. Let's go.
We have women who travel here from out of state.
Yeah.
Because they've heard of us and our work, and they're going to.
That's powerful.
How do we reach those women?
Yeah.
That's our main goal.
Yeah.
Okay, my most important question, are you going to play the piano music in the movement studio or a different soundtrack?
Okay. I mean, we've definitely thought about it. Okay. So, no, our Pilates studio is mostly Pilates. There's a couple yoga classes and breathwork classes. But the idea is that it's ultra feminine like it is here, and that it's new. You get the workout that you're looking for because women want to feel strong, but the environment is nervous system regulating. And so the music is French walking music. I don't know if you've ever Googled that on Spotify.
Wow.
Totally. And then the lighting is this really beautiful. We use the Philips Hue light strip. I can send you the picture of the studio. But it is this like really nice, soft, warm yellows and pinks, and you can adjust it a little bit, but it's like dimly lit. The music is not at a level that's like abrasive. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes studios and fitness have been based around like men's nervous systems, right? Because most of the time, like gyms are run by men, so the lights are bright. Mm-hmm. The energy is like really loud and abrasive, and it's almost like numbing instead of really like filling. And so French walking music, really nicely dimly lit, but also you get a good workout. So it's not soft in that it's you're not getting the workout you want, but it is soft in that it's like a lovely experience.
Yeah, wonderful. There's one of the classes that I attended, and the whole time during the class, I was like, I am on a retreat. And I'm doing like my morning Pilates and like I'm in Greece, and after class, I had this like vision in my mind of like going to come out to the veranda and there's going to be a buffet of fresh fruits, like, and then I'm going to go for a dip in the ocean. Like that's where it took my mind and my nervous system, feeling that type of movement in that type of environment. And that's exactly what we need. So
yeah, we had one review come through that was like, it was like taking Pilates at the spa. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want. That's exactly what we want. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love it so much. Thank you both for being here today and being so vulnerable with what's going on inside your clinic and your mindset and your mission and everything. So I really appreciate your time and sharing with our listeners how you're making such a successful business. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
This was really fun.
Yeah.